which I had the privilege to work with my Sensei as well, Trafalgar Square. He remembers that one. That's when I first seen Tupac. Had about 80 security out there.
Yeah. We could tell you some stories about Trafalgar Square that I told Jacob, and I'm glad Sensei is on this line now because he worked with me when we was with Tupac and Ice Cube and so many different artists. LL Cool J.
Even one just by the way he used to come across. Yeah, boy. Flavor Flav, he was there when he was Trafalgar Square.
Public Enemy.
Yeah. I remember one particular night, one of the most horrible things I remember is when they had, I don't know if you were there that night when they put the contract on Ice Cube and I stopped the guy from shooting him.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Does Ice Cube know about it?
You know what? I never really thought about it because we, in the business we didn't do any bragging. Yeah. At the time we did so much. If you told people stories, they wouldn't believe it. But all of us have stories that we could tell that would sound like supernatural story to our viewers, and it really happened. But this particular night, I remember, and I'm not taking a light off of you, Sensei.
No, not at all.
I thought you were there, but this guy King Sung, who was a rapper,
King Sung,
he had a beef with Ice Cube, and that particular night he came down there to do some harm. And I happened to be on the stage with my nephew, Robert Lee Lewis, and we're going to have him on this show, too. He's a top detective, just retired. He's one of the top detectives in New York City. And he was with me on stage, and I happened to see this guy walking through the crowd by himself with a hood on. Now, if you remember Trafalgar Square, it wasn't good for you to walk by yourself because it was similar to the tunnel, where if you weren't with a bunch of guys, you're going to be in some trouble. And he was by himself with a hoodie on. And I happened to notice him that night. And I told my nephew, I said, listen, I said, something up with this guy here. I said, I'm going to go down and I'm going to hold on to him. I said, because something's not right. And I jumped off the stage, walked up on him, grabbed him, and he had a 9mm on. And come to find out, he was going after Ice Cube that night.
Wow.
So that happened at that same club, Trafalgar Square.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that club?
Oh, I remember a lot of things. I know it sounds like a lot, 80 security, sometimes 100.
Yep.
But picture this, a square box, 2 football field lengths.
Right.
That's a big club. Huge
like from
club.
one side of the block, all the way to the other, and
all the way to the other. Yeah, it was like no exaggeration. So I think maybe 80 to 100 was less than what they needed because it was a lot of people. And the dance floor was like, they had a stage, but the dance floor was all open. You definitely have to have your eyes open and be careful because anybody could walk through the crowd of them there. And they used to have thousands of people that used to come there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and there was one particular night that it didn't go down right. Always towards the end, the bewitching hour. At that time, clubs closed at 4:30
to 4.
It was around 2:30, 3 o'clock, maybe even a little later than that. And next thing I know, we hear the commotion. And Sensei had to, teach a couple of guys some respect there, And it was knuckle sandwiches all over the place. But he didn't want to hurt him because, he just had to teach them a couple of people a lesson. They learned real quick.
Yeah.
More than one adversary, He was just tired with the whole saggy pants and yo belly, yo billion. It just took him to another level, and they were escorted out and that was it, But it's always, towards the end, the bewitching hour, you always got to be more alert. You got to watch because already a lot of people are inebriated and, they've been drinking. And that's one of the things Sensei always taught me and I always held on to, and I was able to, get it so good where I could see. And then plus through the martial arts of being on a survey, watching and your surroundings, always taught us protect yourself and also watch your surroundings. And that stood in my head for many, many years and still to this day, because you get to see things in the intuition where you can address these things right away. Like you can see the two people are looking at each other and it's about to go down. And I was able to diffuse a lot of that You know, I'd call a partner or I'd do it myself, you know, and it always worked, you know, always worked.
Yep. Hey, Sensei Rob, Jacob thinks we're in school here. He's raising his hand. He wants to say something. So you can put your hand down, sir, and go ahead and ask your question to Brother Rob over here.
Hold on, let me put my hand down.
My brother Jay.
Sensei.
Yes.
Now, is that the first location you've seen Tupac at? And the same for you, Dad. Is that the first place you met
That's the
Tupac?
first time I was on stage and seen Tupac live.
Nice.
Like the crowd was going crazy and he couldn't even control it. But you know, it ended up simmering down when he got on and started singing. But he had to stop what he was doing because they were just getting too rowdy.
Yeah.
You know, so Sensei had us all on alert because, you know, we had the microphones, the headphones. So he would give us high alert to everybody to be on their toes. So when he threw that ring of that call, we was all in positions, we was all ready. We got into clusters, so in case anything happened, we were together. But, you know, simmered down, everything was good. And, but that was the first time.
I remember that wasn't the first time, you know, I had to actually bring Tupac there. You know, that I got to know Tupac before that because I had bodyguarded him. So briefly, I didn't, you know, a lot of people ask about that. I didn't bodyguard him a long term. He would just call me periodically whenever he couldn't get security or somebody else might have been busy, he would have me there for him. But I helped get him to that club. And I actually got to know him better after being there because if you remember, Sensei, that particular day, a guy got hit in the head with a Moet bottle, and it was horrible. The worst thing I had ever seen happen to somebody. And I don't know if you remember that. He was walking through the crowd, and the back of his brain was coming out of his head.
Woo.
And the brain, was coming out of the back. I'll never forget that. That was a horrible day. That was the night Tupac was there. But anyway, the way we handled the security. Of course, I was head of security at the time, and he liked the way we handled that. And with that being said, I became close to him after that. And he kept in contact with me. And a couple of times, you know, I bumped into him. Matter of fact, even 2 weeks before he died, we discussed that. And I had a conversation with him about him, you know, staying away from the West Coast. And of course, he wasn't hearing it, but he was a wonderful guy. And it's usually never the rappers. It's always their entourage.
Of course, to hype him up. Yeah.
I don't remember if I met him at the Tunnel or the Palladium. When I say met him, I interacted with him. At the time I was searching. So if he was alone, quiet, gentleman, get searched, Absolutely. Go in, you don't hear anything. But the moment he had like an audience, like his own friends or entourage, he would always get mouthy. He got mad. You know him in a different from a different perspective. I always saw him as a nuisance, more of a nuisance. When he came in, he had to be loud and boisterous, and you know.
Yeah, you got an appearance to hold up to. As far as the rap world, as we know, you don't want to feel out of place, so you keep yourself always in character. So in front of his people, he's gonna be like that.
Yeah,
he's gonna be Tupac, you know. And there's a lot of times
if he was alone, he was quiet.
He was never like that. When he was alone, he was never like that. He was always quiet. Very standoffish. Even the last night that I seen him 2 weeks before he was murdered, God bless his soul, he was by himself, and he asked me to work with him that night. And I couldn't because I was working at another club on Amsterdam Avenue. And I remember that I told him, I said, I can't work with you tonight. And, you know, he was very humble. He was with a young lady, and he was very humble. And he felt bad that I couldn't work with him. And then 2 weeks later was when I got the call, he got killed. But a lot of those guys are like that. DMX was the same way. A lot of people listen to his music and the whole Rough Rider stuff. But DMX was really a nice guy. He wasn't flamboyant or any of that stuff. He was really a nice guy, man.
Yeah, he wasn't aggressive. He was still DMX, but he wasn't nasty to people. He was not nasty to people.
Not at all.
Yeah.